Goliath was not an imagination. Goliath was real. He was big. He was huge. And he was a strong man. He was called a champion. The champion of gods. And he had 4 brothers. And they were all giants. And Goliath was head of the army. He was the biggest of them. And when he came out, all of Israel trembled, including King Saul, who was bigger than everybody else in Israel. And he was the king. The Bible says he was head and shoulders above everybody else in Israel. And Goliath, the champion of the Philistines, stood out. And he said, can anybody challenge me? And nobody could. Everybody was afraid. Think about this. I want you to think. Follow me now. I'm talking about thoughts. Are you there? I said I've journeyed many times through the scriptures to go with David and watch what happened. I've never stopped to be so inspired by what David did. When everybody was afraid, the young lad David came. He only came to give something to his brothers. His dad had sent him. And he heard Goliath shouting and cursing Israel by his gods. He said to his older brother, who's that big mouth? He said, that's Goliath of Gath. He said, why can't anybody take him out? His brother said, shut up. Haven't you seen him? Ever seen anybody as big as that? No, I've never. That's why you ought to take him out. His brother said, get out of here. Go back home. Then he turned to the other soldiers. He said, hello, sirs. Then they heard Goliath. I'm shook. David said, don't shake. Hold on. What will the king give to somebody who whips that guy? Oh, they said, nobody can anyway. That's why they made the offer. Now, ever seen negative fellows? When there's an offer, even on TV, a product offer, they say, hey, what's the catch? Nothing goes for nothing. They're just negative. Just always negative. Say, what's the catch? Nothing goes for nothing. They're offering something, they're taking something from the back. So they say, yeah, nobody can take him out. And the king knows that, so he made this wild offer. Okay, what is it exactly? They said, number one, his family will be free from taxation. No more taxes. Really? Then he'll marry the king's daughter. Can you think about that? You're not even a king. Who will? He said, marry the king's daughter? Yeah. Not only that, lots of other gifts. He said, I can do it. You? David said, can somebody take me to the king? And they rushed to the king. Oh, king, live forever. There's a young guy outside who says he can take out Goliath. He said, who is it? Bring him in. He was expecting a huge soldier, you know, and then they brought this little stripling in. And Saul was still looking for who it was. And the young guy, David, came in. He said, so where is he? They said, this one. He said, you. He knew David before. He said, oh, go back to your mama. He said, you are a youth. And that guy has been a man of war from his youth. He said, no, sir. You see, I was taking care of my father's sheep one day. A lion came and took one of the kids. I went after the lion and caught him by his beards and pulled him apart and I killed him. Saul said, you don't mean that. He said, not only that, sir. On another occasion, a bear came and took one of the kids. I went after the bear and I smote him. He said, sir, that Goliath out there will be like one of them. Listen. Saul never heard anybody talk like that. It was a different kind of talking. He said, young guy, I like the way you talk. You want to try? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. He brought his armor. He said, you got to wear this. That guy's strong. Put this on your head. And they put it on him. All right, wear this breastplate. And after he wore everything, he came out like this. David said, if I wear this, he'll kill me. Please, can I take down all these things? Well, what are you going to wear? He said, I don't need anything. And then they put down everything. And David, they said, what about the sword? He said, I'll kill him with his own sword. Now, think about this. Think about this. I want you to think about this. Can you think? David drops all of these things, works out with a sling, and then he picks 5 smooth stones. Because he said, how many giants are there? They said there are 5 of them. Okay, I need 5 stones. 1 for each one of them. And he picked the 5 stones. And then Eliab, his eldest brother, looked across and saw his brother David. That's his youngest brother. What am I going to tell Daddy? He was already crying. No, when you want to take a step of faith, that's when those who love you start crying. They said the day you die, you lose your mind. Now they thought he had lost his mind. He had no helmet. He had no breastplate. He had no shield. He had no sword. The Bible specifically tells us there was no sword in David's hand. And so he came out, and the great Goliath said, where is your champion? And small lad David came out. And he was doing this. And Goliath held his sword like this. He said, who is he? You? He said, you think I'm a dog? And then, I mean, could anything be more stupid than that? Here is a whole army, and only David is standing in front of them, and he's doing like this. And that infuriated Goliath. The Bible says he began to curse David by his gods. He was so angry that this little boy came outside to insult him. This is an insult. You small rat. You. And while he was saying all of that, David said, you come against me with a sword, with a shield, with a spear. But I'll come against you in the name of the Lord of hosts. The biggest picture of it all is this. You'd need to read it for yourself in the Bible. When Goliath took his step against David, the Bible says David ran toward him. When I read that, I put the Bible down. I said, dear God, boy, I like this. Woo! David ran toward him. Maybe he should have been doing like this. He didn't do that. He charged toward Goliath. And you can imagine the soldiers of Israel would have passed out at that moment. They just die. Just die. Because now they're going to see that guy torn apart by Goliath. But he released the first stone, and Goliath was on the ground. Boom! Are you listening to me tonight? That's what can happen to that cancer. Yeah. That's what can happen to that tumor. It's a choice. When you say, oh, they said it's too big. They said it's this last stage. They said I'm going to die. They said. What do you see? What do